The stock market goes the other direction once again. Coronavirus has made everybody stupid for some reason. Joe Biden walks away with a handy win on Super Tuesday. And I have monitors going. And Tom Brady leaves the Patriots. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. You know, I've been doing this for 3 weeks at this point, and you'd think that I would have all my technical bugs washed out, but apparently sometimes a couple things can get away from me here. Anyway, good morning. I am Jay Edgar, and I do hope that you all have your popcorn ready because it is going to get wild. With everybody sitting in quarantine, the conspiracy theory rumors are going to come out, and everybody's going to get stir crazy, and riots are going to start, and the news is going to try and get more outrageous to try and keep people glued to their TV in these 2 weeks. But before we get started, go ahead and make sure you check out freedomscoop.com, where you can find great artists and great podcast creators like Stephen Ignoramus, Robert and John from The Generational Gap. You can find all of my shows over there, even if I do forget to turn my monitors off before I go live here. You can find The R-Rated Conservative is over there. We've got Wyatt Birkenhoff, a great content creator. Go check him out over there. And we do have another one on the way, and even a live blog getting ready to come on. So go over and check us out over there. You will not be disappointed. But it is time for us to get started. So before we get into the coronavirus stupidity, it's time to start out with the markets because this has become a market show for whatever reason. I don't know why it's become a market show, but it has, for whatever reason, become market show indeed. So we'll start out with reading from Investors Business Daily. Dow Jones Futures hit limit down circuit breaker in coronavirus stock market correction. Amazon, Apple, and Tesla tumble. Dow Jones Futures plunged in Wednesday's pre-market session, along with S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq futures hitting the limit down circuit breaker after the stock market staged day one of a new rally attempt on Tuesday. The White House unveiled plans for more economic stimulus to fight the spreading coronavirus outbreak as the coronavirus stock market correction continues. Dow Jones stock Apple is one of the top stocks to watch after finding support at a key level. In U.S. election news, Joe Biden won the Arizona, Florida, and Illinois Democratic primaries, according to Fox News, placing him firmly in the lead for Democratic presidential nomination over Bernie Sanders. Other top stocks to watch in the current coronavirus stock market correction include Amazon, JD.com, and ZTO Express. FedEx is a key earnings mover after reporting late Tuesday. Meanwhile, Tesla stock dove almost 10% early Wednesday after the Alameda County Sheriff tweeted that Tesla's factory in Fremont, California, was not an essential business late on Tuesday. So we've been watching this go back and forth as we go, and it's been interesting to see. We have one day where they hit the limit up limit, and the next day they hit the limit down, and it is a roller coaster at this point, and I have no idea where it's going to land. One day it looks like everything's going to be all fine and everything's going to go back to where it was, and the next day, it all falls off and we wind up just a little bit lower than we were the day before. So it's quite interesting to see, and it's interesting to watch the Twitter trends, which I think even the bots on Twitter are getting sick of reporting every day that it's the end of the world and the stock market dropped because they have to come back and eat their words the next day when it comes back up. And I will admit, we have not got back to the top where we used to be at one point, but I mean, it's trying. It does remind me of something that Warren Buffett said, and I heard this actually, I believe it was on Ben Shapiro yesterday. Warren Buffett was asked in 1987 how much he lost during the Black Monday sell-off that he had, and he calmly said he didn't lose anything because he didn't sell any of his stocks. So I think the big losers are going to be the people that are rushing and selling off right now because by all measures, this is temporary, and the U.S. government is taking measures. Those are scary words for me to say. The U.S. government is taking measures, but the U.S. government is taking measures to try and make sure that this is curbed and is over in a prudent fashion so we can get back to business as normal in this country. And we don't know how long it's going to last, but I know that we've got bunch of spring breakers who are out there trying to defy biology and trying to say that they can't be hurt by this, but they're coming back and they're bringing this disease back and taking it to the coffee shops and everywhere else that they go, which we'll talk a bit about what Wisconsin did to curb that in just a bit. But yeah, it's just watching the stock market for the last few days has been definitely a ride. My stomach is getting dizzy just reading it every day. So let's see what CNN Business has to say. This is from Claire Duffy over at CNN Business. Stocks fall again as stimulus firepower fails to impress Wall Street. New York/Hong Kong. The fear among investors about the novel coronavirus pandemic and its devastating impact isn't going away despite promises of massive government support for business. U.S. stock futures swung back into the red overnight after Wall Street's slight rebound. Dow Industrial futures fell more than 800 points or 3.9%, accelerating earlier losses after hours. Excuse me. I've got the Wu flu. S&P 500 SPX futures were down 3.7%, while NASDAQ futures declined 4.4%. Markets in Asia and Europe also fell again. The Stoxx 600 index, which tracks European shares, declined nearly 5% in early trading. France's CAC 40 dropped 5.8%, Germany's DAX fell 5.4%, and Britain's FTSE 100 lost 5.1%. The U.S. administration and European governments are promising trillions of dollars in support for the economies as they try to prevent the virus from putting millions of people out of work and bankrupting industry. U.S. Secretary of Treasury Steve Mnuchin is pushing for a $1 trillion economic stimulus designed to prevent the unemployment rate from soaring to 20%. A Republican Senate source told CNN. Germany, France, Spain, and the United Kingdom have also pledged more than $1.5 trillion combined in business loans and other support. So the thing that Mnuchin is saying is going to be important, and we're going to explore that just a little bit here in just a moment. But, I mean, yeah, CNN has got it too, and of course, CNN Business is less biased than CNN, but they've still got their bias in this, so I take what they say with a grain of salt, but yeah, it is interesting and amazing to watch the markets go like this, but this is actually not a stock and business show, so we're going to move on into the fun stuff, and that is the stupidity that the coronavirus has put on to everything else. So we move on to CNBC and to talk about the stimulus packages that have come along. Actually, before we start this, I'm going to read this tweet from Andrew Yang. We're going to move this up here. Or now this, rather, was the tweeter here. So this is where I first started exploring some of these options that the government is trying to put in place to try and get rid of the economic downturn that seems to be coming out of this here. So this is breaking from Now This. Well, it's not breaking anymore. It was 21 hours ago when I put it into the news stack. But President Trump and Treasury Secretary Mnuchin say they're looking into sending Americans checks for $1,000 each to mitigate the economic impact of the coronavirus. They've released no details yet, but the idea echoes Andrew Yang's calls for a universal freedom dividend. So, yes, of course, because now they're trying to do something in a crisis, the call for the Yang gang to come up and gloat and say that that was the solution all along is almost deafening here. But let's see what CNBC has to say. This is from Kevin Bruniger and Lauren Hirsch over at CNBC. Trump seeks stimulus package potentially worth more than $1 trillion, including direct payments to Americans. The White House is seeking a stimulus package worth anywhere from $850 billion to more than $1 trillion as the Trump administration looks to battle the economic impact from the coronavirus pandemic, according to a source familiar with the matter. Later Tuesday, Secretary of Treasury Steve Mnuchin told GOP senators that the unemployment could reach 20% if Congress doesn't enact the stimulus package, according to a person familiar with the situation. An administration official, said the package could include $500 billion to $550 billion in direct payments or tax cuts, $200 billion to $300 billion in small business assistance, and $50 billion to $100 billion in airline and industry relief, which I think as much as I don't want the government to come in and bail out because we're going to be on the hook for that, the airline industry, just to at least keep the doors open after everything, I think is going to be a necessary evil. Let's go with that. It took me a while to find the correct word to say for that, but I think it's going to be necessary evil is the way that we're going to want to put it. So it's like the auto industry has had bunches of assets to sell off, and I know the airline industry also has some assets underneath that they could sell off and get out to another smaller investor and whatnot. But just to keep the doors open, like I said, necessary evil, not something I'm looking for here. But the interesting part of this is just like Now This said, is the fact that yes, they're talking about direct payments, but I'm looking at these numbers here, and I mean, this the first thing that I called for when I asked, or when I found out about this rather, was I wanted to know where they're getting this money from, because we are $23 trillion in debt. So many of the people now that are calling for Trump to come out and do the UBI and these other stimulus packages were so angry. I mean, that was part of the reason that they turned against Obama. It was part of the reason I turned against Obama, was because he was so willing and eager to just throw money at the problem, and in the form of bailouts and stimulus packages. Now, once again, if we're looking at tax cuts, is a different story. I know that people are looking to go with the UBI option right now because they want to take care of people who are going to lose their jobs, especially in the restaurant industry. I mean, I'm already calculating my finances because I am still going to work every day, and I do still have some vacation time to do that, to see how much money I can send home at this point, because my parents are down to one income right now. If what Governor Evers said is true, we'll talk about that in just a bit here. But my parents are down to one income, and I feel that it would be prudent for me to go and send a little bit of money home at this point, because, I mean, it's one good income, don't get me wrong, but it's one income when they've spent 40 years plus having two incomes. So, and they've helped me out in the past too. So, because I mean, I came out of school at the worst part of the 2008 downturn, and the markets were flooded with mechanics, so getting a job was hard because, I mean, that was every guy's backup job. So these guys were looking under the microscope of everyone who was walking through the door, saying that they turned a wrench for years because they changed the oil in their girlfriend's Honda once. So everybody was under the microscope, and everybody was going in, buying tools, and trying to bust into the market that I had just gone to school for and actually had some experience in as well. So they helped me out at that time. I feel it would be prudent for me to send a little bit home as well. But yeah, that's personal stuff on this end. But yeah, it's things for people to think about. And yeah, a tax cut doesn't help if you're unemployed or laid off temporarily either. Maybe later on down the road it will, but in the immediacy it doesn't. Anyway, that's what CNBC has to say. The Hill had some other things to say about this as well. GOP divided on next steps for massive stimulus package. This is from Alexander Bolton. Senate Republicans are divided over how to structure a massive stimulus package that could wind up costing nearly $1 trillion, likely slowing down how long it will take to get the relief bill to President Trump's desk. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, pledged Tuesday that the Senate will not leave town until it passes the bill, but doing so will be a huge undertaking. Republicans disagree over the fundamental questions, such as whether to make direct payments to Americans who miss paychecks because of the crisis or to all adults in a bid to boost the economy more generally. They're also split on whether economic aid should be delivered primarily through unemployment benefits for workers who miss time or lose their jobs, or whether economic aid should go directly to businesses in the form of loans or payroll tax reductions. That payroll tax thing still freaks me out. Give me a second. That payroll just... They won't say income tax reduction. So come next April, and I mean, right now they're talking about actually pushing back some of the deadlines for the taxes at this point past the April 15th deadline because they don't want people gathering or going out or doing business, and some places are under hard quarantine right now. So they're talking about pushing that back, which is probably a prudent idea, aside from the fact that taxation is theft. But when we look back at the fact, of course, that if they just cut the payroll tax, some people are going to walk away with a massive bill come next January, February, March, or April. Just, I mean, people aren't going to, they're going to see the extra money in their paycheck and they're going to think, oh, cool, I can go to the movies a little bit more, or do other things, or buy more food. Or a lot of the Americans that are going to be affected by a payroll tax cut are, they don't have a nest egg sitting here, and some of them think back and harken back to the days of the fact when nobody had a job. And they're not trying to save anything because they remember what it was like back then, and they're trying to take advantage of what they have now. So, yeah, the payroll tax cut just that drives me nuts. Start talking about an income tax cut and you'll have me. But as long as you're just cutting payroll, whew, that is going to be hell for the middle class come next year. Anyway, another contentious topic is how to help the airline industry, which has requested a $50 billion bailout. President Trump and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin favor a generous economic assistance package, but GOP lawmakers are calling for loans instead of direct payments. Everyone's got their own idea, Senator John Wavin, Republican North Dakota, said after his conference met with Mnuchin and National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow. Everybody wants to make we get... Is that a typo? Everybody wants to make we get the help out to people that need it. I want to say that's going to be make us get the help out to people that need it, but wow, that'll throw you off while you're doing it on the air. There are different ideas on how best to do it. In a sign of the difficulties to come, the Senate, as of Tuesday evening, could not agree on how to proceed to vote on a much simpler $104 billion coronavirus relief bill already approved by the House. The $1 trillion package would be a tougher battle. The Senate could wind up working into next week or longer to get Trump the giant stimulus package that he has demanded. Lawmakers know it will have a major impact on the deficit and could be their last real chance to boost the economy. They want to make sure they get it right. Right, but the hardest part of this, of course, is, once again, we need to figure out how we pay for something like this. We can't just charge it on the credit card anymore. And, I mean, this would be the time to charge it on the credit card, but, I mean, the bills are going to come due at some point as well. Yes, emergency funds are typically what you put onto the national debt, the credit card, and etc. But, yeah, it's going to come at some point here. It's all going to come due. And Trump was the guy who stood at the beginning and said he was going to pay off the national debt. I really, really want to see that, but I don't know how he's going to do it, but that is what we need to see here. Anyway, that's what The Hill has on this, of course. So now we go on to Business Insider, which we're citing from them a couple times today. And this goes on to, because Yang has had an audience at the White House at this point. Andrew Yang has spoken with Trump officials about a plan to directly give Americans cash to counter the coronavirus slump. This is from Grace Panetta. Former Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang has been in contact with the White House about designing a plan to give Americans direct cash assistance as the novel coronavirus clobbers the U.S. economy. Yang rose up from being a little-known presidential candidate to a national sensation partially because of his unique policy platform, which included a universal basic income program he called the Freedom Dividend. The initiative would give every American adult $1,000 a month, no strings attached. Yang's campaign said a non-means-tested UBI program would help solve economic inequality by giving workers a financial safety net, bolster innovation, and pay people for household domestic work like childcare, which isn't compensated in the formal economy. It would also boost inflation to numbers that we haven't seen before, because you've got to come up with that, what is it? What do we find out it was? Like $3.25 billion or more? No, it was closer to like 500 billion once we got through the 12 months on his. So yeah, like $500 billion, you'd have to come up with that at some point there. And borrowing against the future is something that we need to ask Venezuela how it happened here. Now that Yang has helped put UBI on the map, he's reaching across the aisle to assist the Trump administration. In a statement released through his new nonprofit organization, Humanity Forward, Yang said he had been in touch with the White House and that his team was eager to offer our support to make sure this process runs as smoothly as possible. So, yes, Yang is getting in there trying to get his UBI in there. He's trying to get his pet project done through the other side and never letting a good crisis go to waste. And I don't believe in the UBI, especially coming off the federal government. Now, if states want to implement some of that to try and have relief, if they want to borrow from the federal government to do it, that's between the states and the federal government. But all this top-down shit needs to stop. And of course, they're talking about different amounts too. Like, I know it was up to $550 a month was what Senator Harris had said, which is a huge godsend to people in places like here in Wisconsin, North Dakota, or Minnesota, or Iowa, or places like that. But, I mean, that is 2 large fountain drinks, which you can no longer get anymore in New York City, but that's 2 large fountain drinks and 2 hot dogs in New York City. $550 a month, so I don't know. And once again, I don't know where they're getting all this money from. It looks like Senator Tom Cotton had a tweet in here, just kind of scrolling down the Business Insider, that says, my relief plan uses tax rebate checks and expanded eligibility for federal assistance programs to put cash in the hands of low and middle income Americans. It also extends cash to struggling businesses through a low interest loan. So Cotton seems to get the idea of trying to give people back their own money rather than turning around and just handing out money willy-nilly and worrying about it later, and I like that idea. But of course, Ilhan Omar has to come up and tweet out, I'm introducing a bill this week to give $1,000 to every American adult, $500 for every child, no exceptions. We need to support the American people now, and this is just a start, and some people did something. That was probably racist. Not gonna lie. That's probably gonna get my YouTube channel shut down. That's gonna be the one that gets clipped. Alright, so yeah, there are other ideas coming out here. I know people are talking about tax delays and just suspend taxes for a while if you really want to stimulate the economy. Admit the fact that taxation is theft and just drop it all away. But let's move out of that for a while. Let's talk about the reaction to some of this and what we have going on here. So this was given to me by my friend Danielle over on Snapchat. She texted me this article here. This is from The Local as well. This is from Eau Claire's NBC affiliate, WEAU, which I grew up watching. So I trust these guys as far as I can trust a mainstream news outlet. Governor Evers ordered all bars and restaurants to close dine-in services. This has been updated recently, but that came out like 3 o'clock yesterday. Governor Evers has ordered all bars and restaurants to close in the state starting at 5 p.m. Tuesday. Food establishments can stay open for takeout or delivery service only. No seating or eating can take place at the restaurants. Governor Evers also directed the Department of Health and Human Services, DHS Secretary-designee Andrea Palm to issue an agency order prohibiting mass gatherings of 10 people or more to slow the spread of COVID-19. The order makes exceptions for transportation, educational institutions, childcare, hotels, military law enforcement, food pantries, hospitals, and long-term care facilities. Evers also extended the closure of all public and private K-12 schools indefinitely and called on the legislature to waive a 1-week waiting period to receive unemployment compensation insurance. Evers said he would be talking with legislative leaders on Wednesday about an aid package. The number of confirmed cases in Wisconsin has increased from 47 to 72. That took off pretty quickly here because it was just a couple days ago we only had 5. So yes, we can no longer go and well, sit in the restaurant. I mean, you can still get your takeout and whatnot. So, I mean, the industry isn't completely screwed, but I mean, you get the small town diners, and there's plenty of them scattered across this state. There are plenty of them scattered across the state. Just these little small diners that in the middle of nowhere, and they don't have. I mean, they've got a takeout service, but for the most part, they don't have a booming enough business for takeout for them to remain open. And that's going to put a lot of people into a bad effect. So I don't agree with this. While I do think it's important, and especially too, like some of these diners cater to the elderly, which seem to be the ones that are being the hardest affected by this disease. You still have the fact that, I mean, this is putting a lot of people out of work as well. So there's got to be a balance somewhere out of this. And I know some of these places are going to shut down at this point, and I don't know what some of the people that work at them are going to do. Some of them are going to be fine, but some of them are not going to make it, especially in that industry in small towns. I was just bragging too to one of my friends because John from the Generational Gap had put on his Discord server that everything was shutting down in Florida. All the bars were shutting down right before St. Patrick's Day at 5, and he was disappointed with that. And right before this edict got sent out, like 20 minutes before, I had just bragged to him that our bars are open in Wisconsin, and now they are no longer. So, it must be bad if Wisconsin is shutting down bars because we don't stop drinking for anything. So let's go ahead and talk about idiot celebrities. That'll be fun. So, in the most Jared Leto thing that somebody could do, Jared Leto just learned about coronavirus after returning from a desert retreat. This is from Rebecca Rubin over at Variety. Jared Leto said he first learned about the coronavirus pandemic Tuesday after emerging from a 12-day meditation retreat in the desert, which is bullshit, because this has been going on longer than 12 days. But still, this is like the most Jared Leto thing to do. Wow, we were totally isolated. No phone, no communication, etc. We had no idea what was happening outside the facility, Leto wrote on Instagram. Walked out yesterday into a very different world, one that's been changed forever. Mind-blowing, to say the least. Yeah, no, it hasn't been changed forever, Jared. We'll come back out of this again. We always do. Even out of the Spanish flu, we went back to business as usual, and that was in 1919 rather, when people still died from polio. Yeah, no, this isn't a forever thing, but it's gonna hurt. It's gonna change the way that we look at things, and maybe it'll curb some of the globalism that we have going on. It's been one of the things that's been talked about because, I mean, this came out of the globalism, and our supply chains are interrupted because we put so much stock in China. So maybe this has changed forever, but not in the way that Mr. Leto wants us to believe it is. And Vanessa Hudgens also made the news, the former High School Musical star that nobody's heard about since High School Musical. Vanessa Hudgens' response to backlash over coronavirus death comments, "Stay inside, y'all." So I found out about this because I looked at the Twitter trends and found that She's 31 was trending. Because a lot of people were trying to say, well, just leave Vanessa Hudgens alone. She's just a kid. She doesn't know what she's saying. No, she's almost the same age as I am. Her High School Musical co-star, who I actually had a crush on for a long time, and that's part of the reason I know this, is only 14 months younger than I am. And yeah, Tisdale is, going to be 35. So these are not kids anymore, but I mean, they played kids for so long. That's the only way people see them is because they played kids for so long. But of course, once again, like I mentioned, we haven't seen Vanessa since that movie was big. So, and she was like 25 when the third movie came out anyway. But anyway, Vanessa Hudgens took to Instagram stories Tuesday afternoon to clarify comments she made during an Instagram live clip a day earlier that went viral, with many accusing the actress and singer of not taking the coronavirus pandemic seriously enough. During Monday's video, Hudgens, who is looking directly at the camera, responds to shutdown orders that some, including President Donald Trump, have said could last as long as July or August. Yeah, till July sounds like a bunch of bullshit, she said. of a potential quarantine to her 38.4 million followers. I'm sorry, but like, it's a virus. I get it, like, I respect it, but at the same time, I'm not making that up and trying to mock her. That is actually how Hollywood Reporter has it written in here. Even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are going to die, which is terrible, but like, inevitable. It's a wonder she's not in movies anymore. The 31-year-old then seemed to backtrack a bit. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now. Hudgens has been busy on the platform in recent days, posting everything from makeup and hair looks, lockdown vibes, she wrote, and calling on her followers to donate to causes such as Feeding America. Let's help each other out rather than freaking the fuck out, KK, she posted 3 days ago. So, yeah. The celebrities are definitely taking this seriously, and of course, they're giving the influence to all of their great, intelligent followers. I don't know why I put that in there, but I just figure we needed some sort of entertainment before we went on to the dark stuff again. So this comes to me via Jessica Green, and this is something that actually happened to me at some point yesterday as well. This is from Business Insider, Rob Price over there. Facebook is wrongfully blocking news articles about the coronavirus pandemic. So this came to my attention yesterday. I left Facebook open after going and checking to make sure the video and links that I'd posted had put up and stayed up. And I had 2 notifications, one when I first got home from work yesterday and one like 20 minutes later. Now, I'm live streaming this to Facebook right now, to my personal page. And they didn't say anything about the live streams that I did yesterday and the day before. But the audio platform, the audio links that I put to them, because when I finish going and putting everything to the audio platform, the first thing I do is I post it to my personal Facebook page, my Facebook fan page, and my Twitter. I post the links to there. I got marked as spam on both of the links to the audio platform that were on my personal page. They didn't touch the fan page, but both of them on my personal page got marked as spam. Now, from what I understand, it was a change in the algorithm meant to counter fake news about the coronavirus pandemic. But yeah, like I said, they didn't touch the live stream or the fan page, so their algorithms suck. If that was what it was an algorithmic glitch. But let's see what Business Insider has to say on this. Facebook is blocking users from posting some legitimate news articles about the novel coronavirus and what appears to be a bug in its spam filters. On Tuesday, multiple Facebook users reported on Twitter that they found themselves unable to post articles from certain news outlets, including Business Insider, BuzzFeed, The Atlantic, and the Times of Israel. Yeah, mine came from Potbean, thank you very much. It's not clear exactly what had gone wrong, and Facebook did not respond to a request for comment. In the face of the mounting COVID-19 pandemic, Facebook has sent many of its content moderators home, saying it will rely more on automated software instead. Alex Stamos, an outspoken former Facebook security executive, speculated that this shift might be to blame. It looks like an anti-spam rule at Facebook is going haywire, he wrote on Twitter. Facebook sent home content moderators yesterday who generally can't work from home due to privacy commitments the company has made. We might be seeing the start of the machine learning going nuts with less human oversight. Well, that just sent a chill up my spine. Facebook, however, denied that the bugs were related to any changes in its content moderator workforce. So, I want to call bullshit on this. I know a lot of people are saying don't panic, and I know that this hit one of my Bernie Bro friends as well. She had, when I posted something on Boomer Book about this, she posted back that she had been hit by it too, and another one of my friends, who is more right-leaning, had posted an article from our local Fox News, or not Fox News, but Fox affiliate here in Milwaukee area, about the school closings, and he got dinged for spam as well. So while I want to say that this is this was just a machine learning thing. I can't help but remember the Styx video that came out yesterday saying that YouTube was going to be relying more on their automated algorithms and not have human intervention anymore as well. So this is something to keep in mind. And I mean, yes, we'll have automation on this, but for the most part, you also have to remember that these big tech companies are big on censorship. And they'll still call themselves platform, but they'll use some of the rights of publishers to try and keep stuff off of their platforms and try and silence the voices of some people. So keep that in mind. Take it with a grain of salt. I'm not going to attribute malice to them directly, but I'm also not going to discount it either. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. So in the wake of all of this other stupidity that we've talked about so far, a lot of people forgot about the fact that there was a primary yesterday. And what's the nicest way to say this? What's the most politically correct way to say this? Bernie Sanders got fucking spanked yesterday. And the revolution is going to continue, but yeah, he got spanked yesterday hard. He's got a red mark on his ass that he's not going to be able to get rid of for a while. This is from Sean McMinn over at NPR. How many delegates do the 2020 Democrat presidential candidates have? So yeah, we've got a delegate count after yesterday. I could not find an actual chart of the delegates gained yesterday, but well, yeah, we can look at what we have for the last 7 days, of course. So right now we're sitting at the fact that after Florida, which is heavily elderly and heavily populated by Cubans who ran away from Castro's regime, Illinois, where Joe Biden's former boss was a native of, or at least was running for Congress from anyway, running for Senate from, and Arizona, which I said could have gone either way, but wound up going heavily for Biden as well. Mostly probably because of the snowbird and elderly population that goes there as well. So as of last night and today, Joe Biden has 1,153 delegates, with 1,991 needed to secure the nomination. And NPR has given us a handy chart, or a handy number rather, of how much he needs left. So out of the remaining delegates, Joe Biden needs 46.6% of what is yet to come. Bernie Sanders has 861 delegates, gaining 120 in the last 7 days. He needs 62.9% of the remaining delegate pool out there. So he's not done yet, but it just got a lot harder for him. A lot harder. That's painful to watch. Primary voters are beginning to choose who will face off against likely Republican nominee President Trump. They called it for Trump last night, by the way, in a symbolic move, because who gives a fuck about Bill Weld? But they called it for Trump yesterday. The RNC has said that he is the nominee at this point. So unless he strokes out and something else needs to happen, it's going to be President Trump as the incumbent and the Republican nominee. In most cases, state Democratic primaries award delegates to candidates based on their performance in a primary caucus vote. NPR and the Associated Press are keeping track of who has the most delegates throughout the primary season. At the Democratic National Convention in July, those delegates will choose a nominee for the party. Not every presidential candidate will receive delegates in every state, and some may not receive any delegates. Only those who have earned at least one delegate are listed on this page. So they listed Tulsi Gabbard as well. Other delegates, well, yeah, that'll include all the people that dropped out as well, is 168. So, yeah, that was fun. And I've got an article from CBS here as well, CBS News. This does, oh, there's the author. By Grace Seegers, Carolyn Linton, and Melissa Quinn. Joe Biden swept all three primaries on Tuesday night in Arizona, Florida, and Illinois. CBS News projects. The contest took place amid the ongoing coronavirus crisis that led Ohio officials to postpone their primary, which had also been scheduled on Tuesday. In remarks after his early win in Florida, Biden, speaking from his home in Wilmington, Delaware, said his campaign appeared to have had a very good night, but there goes the fire brigade. But he also spoke about the coronavirus crisis. He told Americans that it's important to get through this crisis, protecting both the public health and our democracy. Bernie Sanders gave remarks via live stream earlier in the night. He focused mainly on the coronavirus crisis and highlighted unity. Tuesday's lopsided results will expand the divide in delegates between Biden and Sanders. So actually, it looks like CBS has projections on this as well. So it looks like 43% to 30% Biden-Sanders, with 68% in Arizona, 62% to 23% Biden to Sanders in Florida, with 99% of the vote in, and 59% to 36% Biden-Sanders in Illinois, with 91% in. So, yeah, Bernie got spanked. But that was not the only news that we had in primary news last night. So, this is from Fox News. AOC's pick in Democratic primary for House seat beats incumbent. This is from Ron Blitzer over at Fox News. Representative Daniel Lipinski, D. Illinois, a rare anti-abortion House Democrat, has lost his party's primary race to challenger Marie Newman, a small business owner endorsed by far-left Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat of New York. Now, this is important because we saw earlier in states where some of the squad-backed candidates were failing to crack. Some of them were failing to crack 10% in their primaries against many incumbents, and Cortez said that she was going to funnel all kinds of money, including her Democratic Party dues, into a lot of these candidates, these far-left progressive candidates, to try and unseat establishment Democrats as well. And I would like to see, I didn't look into this, but I'd like to see what district Newman and Lipinski were in, just to kind of, because, I mean, I'm right here next to Illinois, so I would actually like to see what the makeup was in the district that they're working in. But yeah, I mean, she came out and said she was going to try and get some of these people, and they've been spanked normally, but this is going to be the first time. And of course, the progressives are going to jump on this and say, yes, this means the tide is shifting and the establishment is over and it's time for the Progressive Party to take over and all this and everything. But yeah, this is one win. Apparently Fox thought it was important to talk about, but this was one win amid dozens of other ones that got primaried out and couldn't make it and couldn't make the cut. So I do still think that the progressive movement is being stalled, and that could be very much attributed as well to the results that we got last night and the fact that Biden is so far ahead of Bernie in delegate count right now. And that does warm my heart a little bit, because it shows me that the American people are rejecting socialism on a grand scale. They like to have the idea in there so people can fight about it and some of the best ideas can come to the top, but for the most part it's losing on a grand scale. And we might actually get two viable parties back at some point here, especially if Biden loses to Trump, because Bernie Sanders voters won't come out and vote for Biden. At which point, if they go and kick all of the progressives out of the party, we'll get two viable parties. We might get a Kennedy Democrat Party again. Dear God, could you see what would happen there? Two parties fighting for America first, and ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And we'll actually have a decent race going on. But as far as the Democrats embracing socialism and getting spanked in all but the farthest left of districts right now, we don't have two viable parties right now. And I don't want to see the right get an open mandate to do whatever the hell they want any more than I want to see the left get an open mandate to do whatever the hell they want. But they did go into the 2016 election believing the fact that they were going to get an open mandate to do whatever the hell they want, and there would never be a Republican Party again. So Two viable parties is the best way to run this country because they can fight and argue and it makes the news. If it doesn't make the news, then all you have is people passing bills and laws under the table, and all of a sudden something's illegal and you don't know why it's illegal. So it's time to get the progressives out of the Democrat Party. If they want to form their own party, go ahead and do so. See if you can get up on the stage as a third party. But get them out of there. Let's get two viable parties back in here, and let's get the discourse going back on so the American people can know what's going on. All right, the last piece of news that I have here, going back to some more entertainment before we get on out of here, is from ESPN. Tom Brady says goodbye to Patriots on social media. Tom Brady quit the New England Patriots on St. Patrick's Day, when Massachusetts has prohibited Bostoners from going to the bar. That is a big middle finger to New England. I'm sorry. That is a big middle finger. Do you have an author on this article? No, you do not. Sorry, ESPN writer. I cannot give you credit because they don't have your name on here. Tom Brady said goodbye to the New England Patriots in a series of posts on Instagram on Tuesday, ending his 20-year run with the only NFL team he has ever known. Brady did not say which team he will sign for in the 2020 season. Dude, just retire. What is he, 43? Mind you, he's had an offensive line that's been pretty protective of him for pretty much his entire career. He hasn't taken some of the hits that Aaron Rodgers has taken over the years, and an offensive line that I've spent the last 10 years disappointed in, but you're still 43 years old. Dude, retire. Seriously. But he did indicate he was leaving. He officially hits the league's open market Wednesday, but could reach an agreement with another team Tuesday when players and clubs can negotiate deals. A league source told ESPN's Adam Schefter that Brady has not yet made a decision where he will play and will be exploring his options. Buccaneers general manager Jason Licht acknowledged to Schefter that he has interest in Brady. I'm sure every team has interest in Brady right now, except for the Packers. And said the two sides spoke Monday. He said there's been no conversation Tuesday and there's no deal in place. We're waiting to see what Tom decides, just like everybody else, Licht says. What Brady has decided for sure is that he's moving on. Although my football journey will take place elsewhere, I appreciate everything that we have achieved, and I'm grateful for our incredible team accomplishments, he wrote on Instagram. Dude, I respect what you're doing. Honestly do. And as much of a Packers fan as I am, I have got a lot of respect for the New England Patriots, given the fact my 2-year stint there. The fact that the Patriots rarely play the Packers because it's American League versus, or not, they're not leagues, AFL versus conference. I know how football works, I promise. It's NFC versus AFC, so they don't always play each other, and I do have tremendous respect for Brady and the Patriots, but dude, you're in your 40s. You've got Giselle waiting at home for you. Retire, watch football, coach maybe, offensive coordinator something, and go bang Giselle. Seriously. I would love to be back in Massachusetts right now just to see what they have going on there, because they have been pampered for 2 decades. They've had one of the key lead quarterbacks in the league for 2 decades. And, I mean, it's like Wisconsin people felt when Brett Favre decided he wanted to go play for the Jets, because as many interceptions as he threw throughout the years, he could throw that many interceptions and still win games as much as he could. And Wisconsin has been spoiled with a good quarterback as well for a very, very long time. And we didn't know what we were getting with Rodgers when Favre decided he wanted to go play for the Jets. We wound up being fortunate, and I feel like New England is Robert Kraft is going to walk away with this a winner somehow or other as well. But they might be fortunate in the end as well. But yeah, whoever comes next has got big shoes to fill, and I hope he's up to the task. Aaron Rodgers was, But yeah, I do hope he's very much up to the task. So that is where we're going to leave it today. I'm not going to play around with things that have restored my faith in humanity right now because there's just so much going on, and we ran a little bit long anyway, but we will be back here later on tonight. We're going to be playing some more Fallout New Vegas, so come hang out. I'll read the chat more during New Vegas. Remember, on Friday, we will shout out everybody who's been in the chat. Otherwise, we will be back here tomorrow with more Contemporary. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.